and welcome to another zombie-tearing, dead and barren episode of What Happened, the investigative YouTube pop culture media show that was expressly created for the purposes of tackling today's sordid story. By now, y'all should know how we do things around here. We provide meaningful, curated style content about well-known video games, movies, franchises, or console hardware, both good and bad, and the struggles they were subjected to during the course of their creation. Our subject today, though, I'm gonna be honest, I had never heard of until just recently. Scratch that. I think I recall something from earlier in the year about trademark infringement and seeing this guy everywhere. This blank, emotionless stare from default male model number 3 was all I saw about this project for like a day or two before it sunk back into the ether. That is, until now. So, grab your... I don't know what you use in this game, I literally can't play it, as I answer the question, what happened to the day before? Everyone and their Nona has heard of this project's developer, Fantastic. I mean, they were responsible for such smash hits as The Wild 8, Dead Dozen, and the award-winning Radiant One, which were all really influential. I can't do this. I have no idea who this studio is, or were, more accurately, so allow me to regale you with the very basics. Formed in 2015 out of Russia with its main development studio in Singapore and composed of a small number of employees, Fantastic was headed up by the brothers Eduard and Asen Godesev. Their earlier days seemed to be all about producing quick, ultra-indie style games for the PC and mobile markets, but that changed in 2021 with the introduction of their second-to-last title, Prop Night. This was an online asynchronous multiplayer horror game with a physics-based gimmick bolted on, which, to be fair, garnered a fairly strong player base in the very limited time it was supported. The other thing about Fantastic I was able to glean was the reason it was headquartered in Singapore in the first place, despite most of their employees not natively being from there. Like a few other countries, the Singaporean government offers assistance programs for any studio which sets up shop there. In Singapore's case, there were two: a production assistance fund, which can cover up to 40% of all production-based costs, as well as a development assistance fund, which can cover up to 70%. This will be important later. Anyway, 2021 was an important year for Fantastic for another reason: the January announcement and trailer of their next game, which, judging by all the buzzwords used, was going to be a pretty significant upgrade in terms of scope and complexity. This was also the first instance of the day before generating groundswell pretty much immediately, as the slickly produced trailer, which featured a Rockstar Games-esque narrator and fake online chatter between co-op players,
I'll find out what's in the skyscraper.
Okay, and I'll look around here.
highlighted a decently detailed city ravaged by a virus that turned people into zombies, which was the style at the still now. Well, it's no secret that 1 million of these types of games get announced and released every month, especially on Steam. For some reason, the day before managed to break through all that white noise, as every major online outlet like IGN and GameSpot helped boost this trailer's visibility, with the IGN upload of the trailer generating 2.5 million views alone, as well as over 5 million views for the next trailer, which released that April. Godesev brothers even appeared in another upload and claimed that the day before would bring real innovation to the MMO survival genre with more open gameplay design and an immersive GUI. We've reinvented everything from the in-game goals to the ways we approach the quality of the game mechanics, they vaguely boasted while flanked by a distracting doggo. The rest of the year was dotted by a consistent stream of video updates, all getting uploaded to the biggest channels, while showing off various vehicles, features, gameplay elements, and always pushing the fact that the day before was going to turn the open world survival MMO on its head with all its dazzling innovations, which is something you should keep in the back of your mind. Then, in October of 2021, Fantastic announced that the game's initial release date was going to be June of 2022, which, given the amount of footage that had already been shared, seemed pretty reasonable and in line with the marketing life cycles of a lot of similar games. It would, in fact, not make that release date, though, and not the one after that, and not the one after that, because this was just the beginning of the shambling, bumbling saga that was the Day Before's development. In May of 2022, 1 month before the Day Before's initial projected release date, the surprisingly large number of players anticipating its debut had a figurative bomb dropped on them. The game was being delayed, which, while not ideal, is at least fairly common, because when you're this close to a release date and get a delay, it typically means there was a submission failure to whatever platform holder you're submitting to, or a major bug that was discovered at the last second. This then usually results in said project getting bumped back by a few weeks or a month even, but in Fantastic's case, they decided to suddenly switch engines from Unreal 4 to Unreal 5, which is something you probably should have communicated much earlier on. The new estimated release date was now March of 2023, almost a full year later, which obviously could be better, but still, it's rather bizarre such a huge decision was made at the very last second, but it's part and parcel for this story. Because this then seemed to set off a chain reaction of shadier and shadier things being revealed about the Day Before, with the next one coming that very June from the game's official website. It received an update with a call for volunteers to apply for working at Fantastic, which, no matter how you try to spin it, meant unpaid labor, with the website clarifying that these volunteers would receive free codes, certificates, and unknown gifts. Hey guys, it's Friday! Who's hungry for some pizza? This move, as you can imagine, was met with instant criticism from a number of gaming and news websites. Why was a project that looked like it was targeting the AAA gaming space, clearly had a big marketing budget, and was on over 1 million wish lists on Steam, need to rely on volunteers to work on it? Well, Fantastic answered this in a somewhat odd statement to Eurogamer. Essentially, the word volunteer comes from the Latin word voluntarius, meaning willing or of one's own choice. Anyone who is open to life can become a volunteer with Fantastic, and there are 2 types of volunteers. Today we have over 100 full-time internal volunteers, employees, from Singapore, Russia, the Netherlands, Thailand, Ukraine, Finland, Kazakhstan, and Belarus, who work as engineers, artists, HR professionals, etc. We also have 40 external US and worldwide volunteers, supporters, who help with testing and reviewing our products at a very early stage. Last year, we ordered localization for Prop Night from a well-known large studio specializing in translations. As practice has shown, the result of their work was not so perfect. Most of it had to be redone with the help of our enthusiastic volunteers, supporters. In Prop Night, together with these supporters, we found bugs, dealt with cheaters, and even organized our Discord communities. This made it seem like they had a core group of volunteers that were getting paid and an external team of supporters that weren't, which is weird, and the above statement still didn't actually explain the why. Why not just pay them, like... And listen, it's one thing if you have an open beta that you give fans early access to, and in their spare time, they can choose to help you flag bugs and potential issues. The Day Before, however, did not have such a beta because the testing process they described was just regular development, as no footage or media were allowed to be shared or discussed, unlike, most betas. If there had been a beta though, public or private, then the story would have had an even more disastrous end, which is hard to imagine, I know, but just trust me on this. For now, let's move on to January of 2023, where the shit really starts to hit the fan. Without any warning, the Day Before's Steam page was suddenly pulled down, with Fantastic stating a few days later that they were hit with a trademark dispute, which caused the takedown. This announcement also doubled as a way to inform everyone about the game's new release date, which Fantastic was somehow now able to narrow down to the very day, November 10th to be specific. Now, if you've suddenly been hit with a trademark dispute, how could you possibly know when your game will be available again? As we've seen, things like that can drag on and on and on. Just ask Jason Voorhees. But the studio's founders already had an answer ready in a statement to IGN. Apparently, they were aware of this trademark dispute a while ago, and that the delay to November had nothing to do with this trademark dispute, but was rather already being planned for the regular polish and optimization reason. So they chose the date of November 10th as they felt that would have given them enough time to sort through all these sudden hiccups. We're very confident that this issue will be resolved since we have strong legal partners. The extra time will allow us to better prepare for the release and make the overall improvements for the game. It will become even more polished, optimized, and content-filled. This statement also saw the brothers Godesev addressing the ever-increasing claims of the day before being some type of scam, where it actually wasn't real and was simply smoke and mirrors and would never come out. They vehemently denied this, of course, by saying, "The storm will calm down eventually, and time will put everything in its place. When the game comes out, people will finally see the truth. But while we're here, we're grateful for such a fantastic journey and for you being with us. For us and millions of people, the day before is a childhood dream come true. It's a game with zombies and other people in a huge post-apocalyptic skyscraper city. We understand that some players, not seeing the whole picture, might have doubts about the game. Our whole focus has always been on the product itself. We've been creating the game for 4 years. All these years have been full of sweat and blood to make this game, and for many members of our team, it is unpleasant to hear such accusations. We didn't take a penny from people. No crowdfunding, no pre-orders, no donations. The game is fully funded by Mytona, one of the largest mobile publishers in the world, who check the game's build at every milestone per our contract. We only believe in the final product. No matter what anyone says, you'll see for yourself on November 10th this year. We hope that after the game's success, we'll give people faith that in this life, if you persevere towards a dream, it will come true, despite all the obstacles and doubts."
That was beautiful.
Does anyone know if those last few bits were featured on Poorly Aged? Because if not, they damn well should have been. Only 1 month later, in February of this year, all videos related to the day before that had been uploaded to Fantastic's YouTube channel were taken down, with Fantastic citing further issues with trademark infringement, but this time by a third-party calendar app called The Day Before. Now, typically, trademark disputes happen because one claimant makes the argument that another product with the same or similar name creates confusion with potential customers, which is very possible if we're talking about two different video games or movies. But this was an online survival MMO, supposedly, and a calendar app for mobile phones, so there really wasn't a leg to stand on here. Fantastic therefore claimed they would fight the issue, and yeah, nothing really happened after that. They were just able to keep the original name from that point forward, waving off the issue later on by saying that they won the trademark dispute and that's that. Yeah, what of it? Want to fight about it? Not sure what really went down here. I mean, did they threaten litigation with the help of their strong legal partners? Did they pay off the original trademark holder to keep the name? Was it even a legit dispute to begin with? Regardless of the reasoning, it was just a really bizarre series of events, and to many, rather off-putting. Like, what was really going on with this game? The weirdness train didn't stop rolling though. In June of this year, Fantastic then released perhaps one of the most befuddling pieces of marketing that, well, just take a look yourself.
Get ready for November 10th.
What is this? Were they going for that bizarre 2006 PS3 marketing style, or like some sort of quirky Dead Island trailer thing? Regardless of the intent, it only raised many people's concerns and/or red flags over the day before, especially when you factor in all the other strangeness that had been going on. Everyone was correct to be worried though, because once November hit, Fantastic announced it was delaying the game again until December 7th, and worst of all, it would do so first by entering Steam's early access program. This meant that after all the hype, it wasn't even going to be released as a 100% finished product, which directly went against what Fantastic had said some 7 months ago. Please recall that the whole point of the giant delay to November was for the game to become even more polished, optimized, and content-filled, so fans were understandably upset about this sudden and very last-minute change in plan, especially when Fantastic had never hinted that it was going to be a possibility. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, because when people finally did boot it up on December 7th after paying the requisite $40, it was noticeably different than what most people had been led to believe. If players thought it was going to be some genre-defining survival MMO milestone, then they were going to be in for some news that would shock and frustrate them. And that news is as follows. It wasn't an online open-world MMO survival thing at all. Instead, the day before turned out to be an extremely basic, stripped-down extraction shooter a la Escape from Tarkov, but bereft of any content and polish and absolutely bursting with bugs and poor optimization. People were pissed, and the internet did what the internet does, which was getting flooded by tons of coverage lambasting the laughable state the day before it shipped in, spearheaded by various comparison videos between all the trailers and the final version. Now, Fantastic should be given a shred of credit here. Stay with me on this. As they stated earlier in the year, they indeed never opened up pre-orders for the day before, so yeah, they didn't directly make any cash off the pre-release hype. But to then take that same credit back, they didn't really need to. Propped up by all the exposure it had received over the last 2 years, the game's 20,000 reviews on Steam and over 30,000 concurrent peak players, according to SteamDB, proved it undeniably made bank on day one at least. But as for exactly how much, we don't really know. But once the jig was up, the negative reviews rolled in hot, wet, and fast. And as of right now, the day before is one of, if not the worst reviewed product on the entire platform. Then, just 4 days after its launch, and what has to be the new record holder here on what happened, Fantastic's website was replaced with this notice, saying it was shutting down due to the financial failure of the day before. How is that possible? Well, Valve stepped in and lifted their less than 2-hour refund policy just for this particular case, meaning anyone could get their money back even if they played less than 90 minutes. This rare move on their part has indicated to many that Valve must have realized what was going on, and were attempting to mitigate the damage from those that felt cheated after years of incredibly deceptive marketing. Mytona, the mobile games publisher that was supporting Fantastic in this project, revealed that the IP was actually owned by them, and that they would work with Valve to keep issuing refund requests, which will probably be for quite a while yet. Which is something I would be saying to you if the game was even available to purchase anymore. Yes, in conjunction with the announcement its developer was closing down, the day before was also delisted on Steam, where I'm sure it'll become something of an Ark of the Covenant in the months and years to come. Oh wait, people are selling gray market keys for $300 right now. Oh, and in a really fun bonus fact, anybody that bought one of those keys must be pissed, because it was recently announced that the servers are now being shut down on January 22nd, so the game will no longer be functioning for anyone. So yeah, that was A lot. Thankfully, a few more answers were revealed just recently in an interview on DualShockers with an anonymous former employee who worked on the day before. And while nothing here is super surprising, it's still nonetheless baffling. A lot of the onus was placed on the Godosevs, saying that they were incredibly controlling on the project, often ignoring the ideas and advice of others, fired those that raised any objections, and made grand, sweeping decisions on a whim even though they were unrealistic or pointless. A lot of stupid ideas were implemented, removed, and re-implemented because the brothers thought they knew better than us about what people wanted. A huge amount of time and work was wasted because jobs had to be done and redone. As for the massive bait and switch between an online MMO and an extraction shooter, well, as it turns out, there wasn't actually any grander plan or some giant technical issue that made it impossible to achieve. According to the ex-employee, it was always a bold-faced lie. I never saw it as an MMO project. No one from our team knows why they called it an MMO. It was always a third-person shooter with some co-op mechanics. Not one RPG mechanic was implemented. Skills were an idea and they were in the prototype stage, but nothing more. Maybe the CEOs knew something and didn't tell us. There was no possible way to put a lot of people in the world or make the world bigger. From the beginning, the idea was that the servers would be under 100 people. That is not an MMO. No clans, no raids, closed hubs. It's been that way for over 2 years. That's not to say before those 2 years that the day before wasn't originally planned to be an online MMO thing, but chances are probably not. The employee would also go on to say that the decision to close Fantastic most likely came from Mytona, and confirmed the legitimacy of a leaked document that stated the day before had sold around 200,000 copies, and at the time the doc was leaked, had been refunded about 90,000 times. So somebody made off with something, although it's unclear who. Big ups again to DualShockers for scoring this interview, as it does help confirm many suspicions. Link in the description below. Finally, Fantastic cleared out their entire YouTube channel of videos. Their Twitter account, as of this writing, went dark on December 13th. And then there's what happened to the Godosev brothers, which I'll be answering on my new segment, Where in the World is Blank? Now, when a studio usually goes out of business, you tend to hear about what's next for certain key staff, and in the Godosev's case, they have completely vanished off the face of the planet. So yeah, that concludes this new segment. I hope the dog's doing well though. When you step back and put all these facts together, like the assistance funds to keep production costs low, using unpaid labor for testing and localization, statements from an ex-employee, and finally, spending a lot of marketing money on trailers and coverage, it starts to paint the picture that the day before was simply a cheaply made but well-marketed piece of shovelware that was more or less a get-rich-quick scheme. And in the last few years, we've seen a slew of other similar vaporware-style scams, like Abandon, the Intellivision Amico. The day before certainly stands apart, cause, you know, it actually did come out. But did it really? I can't even be sure. This story somehow took 2 full years to develop and conclude, but also simultaneously moved incredibly fast, from announcement to release to shutdown to a full-on vanishing act. With all that said, I guess the best way you can sum it all up though, is that, well, shit happens. If you know of any other extremely vague and disappointing bait and switches in the video game or movie industries, do let me know in the comments below, or shamble on over into the empty gray skyscrapers of my social media. See you next time, and thanks for watching!